Commission to order Wednesday, October 8th at about 11:01. Can we get a roll call?
Commissioner Spence,
I'm here.
Commissioner Perkins,
Here.
Commissioner Eisenberger,
Here.
Commissioner Stahl,
Here.
Chair Wheeler,
Here.
and then we have Commissioner Carpenter and Commissioner Tucker absent.
Okay, looks like we have a quorum. First item of business we have for the planning commission is we have our meeting minutes here. One thing of note, we're going to a slightly different format than we've seen in the years past, where this is just action items only. If anybody wants a full transcript for this, we have it available on the city's website under the planning department, I believe. Is that right?
Yeah, I've lined it down.
Yep, it's on the city's website under minutes and agendas, I think is what it's labeled as. And then all the videos are on YouTube, but they're linked on the website as well.
And then just a timeline, what does it take after our meeting? How long after does it get posted? A week?
It's typically the same day,
Oh.
but we do have a week
Okay.
legally to get it online.
So pretty quick turnaround.
Yeah.
Okay, so if anybody wants to know, there's obviously more nuts and bolts on those YouTube videos. Pretty compelling discussions most of the time. And so this new format we'll move forward with from here on out. So I need a motion from our commission.
So moved. I'll second that.
All right, so we got that motion, we got that second. Is there any discussion, any further discussion needed on this? Doesn't look like it. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Or if you're online, say aye, or me.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye sounds better than me. Thank you, guys. All right, next up, we have commission business with some city updates.
That will be Elena.
Yes, sorry, I am recovering from a cold, so if I sound a little off, I'm sorry.
Well, thanks for being here.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so pretty short updates this week, because it's been a short time since your last meeting. We did receive the grant that I discussed last time. We received the Parks Master Plan grant, and we're planning on issuing an RFP for a firm in next month. And then we also received, next slide, the TGM, the Transportation Growth Management Grant, which will work on integrated land use and transportation planning, covering the mill mixed use and riverfront commercial zones.
Cool.
Then next slide, we received the DLCD grant, the HAPO grant, which will cover part of the work needed to complete the code audit that we had Winterbrook do the initial work on. And then the wastewater treatment plant, we're going to be, next slide, we'll be working on setting the forms and pouring the concrete in the next couple weeks.
Cool.
And that's all the updates I have right now.
Awesome. Great job on all the grants, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And thanks
Thank
to
you.
Alan.
Well, just for that one, for the DLCD grant.
Any questions on the update? Okay. Thank you for that. Let's move into our public hearings. We have 3 of them today. One of them is a continuation from our last meeting. 2 conditional uses, first of which is a food cart pod. Second one is across the street at the barbecue barn drive-through. So let's get into it with conditional use 2025-03-CU, Northwest 6th Avenue food cart pod.
All right,
Is it 6th Avenue or 6th Street?
6th Street. Oh, wait, nope.
6th
6th
Ave.
Ave, sorry. Yep. 6th Ave. Thanks, Ben. So I will present staff's report on that. It's 2025-03-CU. We're calling this the Northwest 6th Food Cart Pod application. Okay, so the applicant is at Aaron's. The site address is 116 Northwest 6th Avenue. So it's right up the street. You head up Broadway till it dead ends, or it doesn't really dead end, but you get to the high school and it's right there on the left. There's the legal description on the screen, and it's in the residential commercial zone. And the proposal is to develop a 10-cart food cart pod. And we received comments from the city engineer, public works director, fire marshal, and the city attorney. And so here is an aerial view of the site. We've got Northwest 6th Avenue going east to west, the top there, and then just to the east of the site is North Broadway Street, and you can see it's an undeveloped site. It's a vacant gravel lot, essentially, sometimes used for parking. And looking at the comp plan and zoning map here, you can see that it's in the C2 or the residential commercial zone, and then we've got our low density residential R1 across the street into the south. And we'll look at the site plan here. And so I've shaded it just to show the boundary of the proposed development. And looking here, we've got, parking off to the side. The parking is in green. There's 10 spots proposed. You can see the numbers 1 through 10 there. That's where the food carts are proposed to go. We've got those 2 circles up at the top. That would be the water and the sewer connections. That's the approximate locations of those. And then we've got a proposed covered area for dining and then a restroom there in orange on the bottom left. All right, and we'll get into the approval criteria. So chapter 1632 is the residential commercial chapter. We can see here that more than 2 food carts on a lot of record is listed as a conditional use in the C2 zone. And the proposal is to create a site for 10 food carts, which makes this a conditional use in the residential commercial zone. So the standards section includes requirements pertaining to sidewalks, fences, and walls, and landscaping, and staff finds that all relevant criteria in this section is also met or can be met with conditions of approval. All right, so we'll move into the food carts chapter. So this chapter is reviewed each time that a food cart business applies to operate in the city. And that's still the case even if the food cart pod is approved. However, as many of these standards will affect the development of the new food cart pod, I reviewed them against all the standards in this application and found that all the standards can be met with conditions of approval. And that will bring us to the chapter on conditional use specifically. So I'll go through the 5 main approval criteria for conditional uses here. Okay, so the first is that the proposed use is listed as conditional use in the underlying zone, and we saw that already. So in the C2 zone, this is a conditional use. And the second is that site characteristics are suitable for the proposed use. And I'm going to take a bit of a detour here and just explore the standard in greater detail. So here's the full language of that standard. It says the characteristics of the site are suitable for the proposed use, considering size, shape, location, topography, existence of improvements, and natural features. And so the size, shape, and location, topography, natural features are all found to be suitable, but I want to talk a bit about existing improvements and specifically about sidewalks, curbs, and driveways on the site. And so I'll present staff's findings regarding those improvements. Okay, so first, staff expects an increase in pedestrian traffic resulting from the food cart pod. So we're thinking students heading over for lunch after school, locals going for lunch and dinner, patrons of nearby businesses stopping by, etc. The only restaurant in the immediate area is Granny's drive-through with one other food cart 4 blocks away. But regardless of whether folks walk, bike, or drive to the food cart pod, they'll be using the pedestrian infrastructure adjacent to the site. Our second finding is that the site frontage consists primarily of driveway aprons and not sidewalks. So I'll show you here. So the green sections are sidewalk and curb, and the blue are driveway aprons. So we have a really wide driveway apron that takes up most of the frontage along 6th Avenue. I think it's 50 odd feet. And then on the east side for North Broadway Street, I think that's about 40 feet of driveway apron. The third point is that this infrastructure is in really poor condition, and I just took some pictures to give everyone an idea of what it looks like. So this is just a small section of sidewalk on the northwest corner. You can see grannies in red at the top of the screen there, to give an idea of where that is. Yeah, it's not in great shape. You see the cement's coming off and the aggregate is exposed there. This is a photo of the driveway apron on the north. Similar condition, really pockmarked. Again, the driveway apron onto 6th Avenue. Close up of the curb condition. This is the pedestrian ramp across North Broadway Street. And then we're looking at the driveway apron on North Broadway. So you see similar condition. We've got, the cement is worn away and just the aggregate is exposed. We've got some cracking. This is the sidewalk on the southeast side of the lot. And it's in the best condition, but even here we have some cracking, and the curb is showing some signs of wear there. So yeah, just to give everyone an idea. The last point is that, the code says that development sites must have sidewalks with curbs before permits for work exceeding $15,000 can be issued. And so with the restroom facility and other structural improvements proposed, we expect that the cost of development will easily surpass that threshold. And so, given the expected increase in pedestrian traffic, lack of sidewalks and curbs along much of the frontage, the poor condition of the existing infrastructure, and this requirement here to provide sidewalks and curbs, staff recommends a condition of approval requiring construction of new sidewalks and curbs along the entirety of the site frontage, and as well as an ADA compliant ramp on the corner. And I'll get back to the rest of the conditional use criteria now. Okay. So the third here requires that the site and proposed development is timely. It can be supported by existing services. Subsection D, proposed use will not alter the character of the surrounding area in a way that limits or impairs the use of surrounding properties. And finally, E, that the application satisfies the goals and policies of the comprehensive plan. And staff finds that the proposal meets all 5 criteria or can meet them with conditions of approval. And the other section of 16.88 that I want to talk about is .020, and that gives the Planning Commission authority to impose additional conditions which are considered necessary to protect the best interest of the surrounding area and the city as a whole. So basically, sometimes staff or our agency partners overlook details that might cause issues down the road. And so this subsection is simply to remind the Planning Commission that you have the authority to impose additional conditions if you find reason to. And here's just a list of potential conditions that Planning Commission might consider. Let's leave that up for a second. And that concludes staff's review of the relevant approval criteria for this application. And staff's recommendation is approval of the application with conditions. And we're recommending 13 conditions. I'll just go over those really quick. The approval would be limited to a food cart pod in the proposed location as proposed. The site plan must be submitted to the city and fire marshal, reviewed and approved by both. Any building permits issued must resemble the approved conditional use as approved. 5% of the site must be landscaped. A fence or a wall along the southern property line must be erected. New sidewalks, curbs, and pedestrian ramp would be required. Storage areas must be screened. A minimum of 10 off-street parking places must be required as proposed. Building height would be limited to 45 feet. Public utilities connection standards must be met. Sanitation facility standards must be met. Food cart standards must be met. And the conditional approval would be valid for 2 years. And that essentially means that development of the food cart pod would be valid, or the approval to develop a food cart pod would be valid for 2 years. They wouldn't have to come back in 2 years to ask permission again. All right, so next steps are public comment. Commission can ask questions and discuss. And then we'll be looking for a motion to approve with changes, or deny with findings.
All right, thanks, Alan. Planning Commission, do we have any questions?
I had a couple of questions.
Go ahead, Aaron.
Thanks. With the parking on the east side of the lot, how is there going to be enough room for Granny's to maintain their drive-through and still have room for the cars to get in and out of those spots?
Yeah, I'm going back to the site plan so we can take a look at that.
The other question that I had was most of the food carts run on propane. They have, propane tanks that are attached to up towards the tongue of the cart, and the side that is facing for customers to come up is usually the rear of the trailer, so they don't have to walk around the tongue to get their food and stuff like that. With the propane located on the tongue and those cars pulling in to park there, is there any consideration for putting a curb or bollards or something to protect a car from going into one of those food carts on the east side?
Right, so you're talking about this line right here. Wait, let me see if I can, this line here?
Correct.
Yeah. That could be a condition that is required.
I'm
So,
just imagining somebody parking and hitting one of those trailers, one of those food
Yeah.
trailers that are
yeah,
parked
that
there.
makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, so we, or this application was shared with our agency partners, city engineer, public works, fire. And the comments we got back, there's no concern from city engineer or public works, except anything about the frontage, the sidewalks and curbs and such. The fire marshal did express concern with the kind of the limitations of this site plan. And so that's why we included a condition of approval that would require the applicant to submit a full site plan, like, with distances and locations of fuel lines, et cetera, in advance of being able to pull permits for this. So they would have to get fire approval for that. So if the planning commission would like to require some kind of barrier between the parking area and the food cart area, they would be free to do that. They could do that now. I imagine that fire would also, this is something that the fire marshal would also address in her review of the application. As for the drive-through, that's a good question. That was not, I didn't receive any comments back from the engineer, public works, anyone about that. We did not require a transportation analysis as part of this. Yeah, let's look.
Would there be a world in which this landowner is required to maintain space on their property for Granny's drive-through regardless? I mean, is that really this person's issue?
Yeah, that's also a good question.
So just looking at the aerial, yeah, where that Granny's drive-through flares out, it looks like that goes into the alley, what would be the alleyway, right?
Mhm.
So you have that vertical concrete line and the gravel alleyway to the right of it. That appears to be the public, quote unquote, alley.
Sure.
And then they flare out to meet the 6th Street. So, I mean, that looks like it's maintained. But where
Yeah.
those two white cars are is where, if you turn those 90 degrees, that's where the parking's gonna be, right?
That's where the parking would be. And so that the asphalt that is not within the property is that's maneuverable space there. I would venture to guess that there is enough space to accommodate parking along there without it interfering with the alleyway, the drive-through exit. Yeah, that would be my guess, that it is doable, but again, we didn't that there's no requirement for for any kind of like transportation or parking study to be done here, so we did not require that.
Alan, a quick question.
Yep.
So in Uptown, I know in downtown, we have some of our alleyways that are actually paved,
Mhm.
but in Uptown, it's a pretty rare thing. And being that this is gonna be like the main in and out parking for the patrons on that gravel, can we establish a paving requirement for the alleyway? Cause it's just gonna be a mess with 10 cars at a pop.
Yeah,
And I'm obviously, if we approve this and all that.
so that
stuff.
would be a public alleyway. Yeah. I don't know that we are able to require the applicant to do that. That's something that I would have to talk to the city attorney and the public works director. The public works director deals with all the flat work in the city and is more familiar with those standards. But yeah, that is unpaved. It's unpaved as of now. I think that at the very least, we could require the paving and then perhaps allow for, city council could allow for an SCC credit against it, since it would be public right away. But again, I'd have to talk to
Okay.
someone about that.
Hey, Ben, could you point your microphone closer towards?
Sorry, I've never been accused of being too quiet.
Thank you.
I had one question here. Now, is this whole project, so far as the food carts, not particularly a parking area, fenced, that whole thing? I mean,
There
from the
was-
Broadway side,
Here, let me-
on the side next, not particularly, well, it probably would have to be. We're pretty much gonna fence in that whole area.
I
Well,
think that's his fence here, the dark line.
The dark line is the fence, okay,
The dark line's the fence.
okay. Maybe that's what, I wasn't quite sure about that. Because I would think that would be necessary for security at some point, you know,
Yeah, he's indicated that there's like, you see down there at the bottom here, living fence.
yeah.
And so,
Ed
yeah,
is
our
also-
staff's understanding is that that would stretch around it. The fence is, yeah, is that dark black line.
And Ed, the applicant, is online if you want to ask him any questions.
Okay. Aaron, do you have anything else you want to ask the planning staff?
No, I mean, the other thing that kind of popped up for me is, as I'm sure everybody's aware, Broadway gets pretty backed up when school's out. There's a lot of foot traffic. Anything that kind of complicates that intersection more is going to slow things down. I saw that there was some emails that got sent in that were kind of questioning the same thing as far as visibility and things like that. Is there any way to, is there any way to maybe require that there is some type of a traffic analysis that could include that parking? So it's not, inadvertently limiting Granny's drive-through and taking a look at how it would affect the traffic and, the potential backups that it may create.
Yes, the planning commission can require that as a condition of approval.
I guess it's hard to imagine there being, the Granny's drive-through is like a snarled nightmare. You can sit in it for 40 minutes and be stretching out onto the other road. And it just seems strange that we're questioning this, but not questioning theirs, or questioning how this business and this landowner of an empty lot is required to work around another business that's there that has like a really currently pretty chaotic presence.
I don't think there's anything that Granny's is doing that's out of bounds or not allowed, though.
No, but neither is this person. And when you leave Granny's, it's hard to get out of there. You end up sort of falling off a curb. It's not an easy place to get in and out of already. So I'm just not really sure how this other landowner and person trying to develop something should be having to take into consideration things that the current person isn't, like that, possibly paying for paving the alley or whatever.
I think she's really talking about states of chaos, the current chaos versus with the chaos we create by doing, I'm calling it chaos. It may not be that way, but the state of being of these two things together and the flow of people coming in and out of that, as density increases in this area, I don't see how this is an adequate amount of parking spaces for anything, but.
Chaos is an exaggeration.
Yeah, chaos,
It's
chaos.
just, like when you're leaving there, you're just like, oh
Well,
my God. But
when you got cars traveling up and down and people moving out, it's a state of chaos, because, unpredictable things happen, and that's the definition of chaos. But, you've got what, 10, how many off-street parking do we have?
10 spots.
There's nothing on Broadway that would give you additional parking or no?
Well, there'd be off-street or on-street parking.
On-street, excuse me,
Yeah.
that's what I meant,
Yeah, yeah,
on-street
yeah.
parking.
So then, yeah, the spots indicated there in green, those are on the site. And then there would be all the on-street parking that was available.
Sure.
And if not more, because you're eliminating that apron, so there'll be a couple more spaces where. the
Right,
long
so
apron
yeah,
is.
along the front there, it's mostly driveway apron. So, based on this plan, there would be a driveway cutout there when the new sidewalks went in. And then the rest of the, on the frontage with North Broadway would be sidewalk too, and not just apron. So it would actually open up a lot of on-street parking.
My feeling is most any development that goes into that, and it's gonna be developed, that's a prime lot, is gonna face these same questions about grannies and everything.
They may.
So,
They may.
holding it against this one is just delaying it until something else comes in there.
Ed, we see your hand raised. We'll get to you here when we open the public hearing, okay? Any other questions at this point in time?
Hmm.
Doesn't appear so.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and, I see Ed's hand raised. We'll have, Ed come to the mic, via the interwebs. Introduce yourself, Ed, and go ahead and, let us know your plan here and if we missed anything. And officially, I'm closing the planning commission meeting, opening the public hearing. And actually, one other thing before you speak, Ed, is there any members of the commission that need to declare ex parte contact? Okay. Go ahead, Ed.
Okay, can you hear me now?
We got you.
Yep.
Oh, okay, good. Well, I appreciate all the discussion. I think it's all good discussion. And most of it are things I've thought about already, like protecting those propane tanks. We do propose a fence along the side there. And one of the intents of that is not only security, but also to keep people from, pulling in when they're parking and hitting tanks and so forth. And as far as Granny's is concerned, their drive-through is actually on their property, and then they pull out into the alley to leave that pull through. So the alley is completely open for the cars to come in and turn around and pull out, and it's a 20-foot alley. So that should all be adequate. Yeah, I agree with the idea of the sidewalks being inadequate the way they are. I anticipated having to replace those. So that's all. Nothing has surprised me really, and I appreciate the discussion that's gone on so far. Any questions you have for me?
Ed, can you enlighten us a little bit on what the covered building area is going to be? Is it a permanent structure? Is it a?
Yeah, I anticipate a permanent structure, perhaps a pole type structure with no sides, or maybe it'll be a steel building with no sides. that part, we haven't really decided which way to go. But
And
yeah,
same with the restrooms, a permanent restroom type facility.
yes,
Any other questions?
One of the big advantages I might point out of having the pod here is we will have sewer hookup, so the carts have a direct way to dump their gray water, and that's a huge benefit to them, and just makes the whole idea of food carts, I think, more sanitary, because they're able to use water and dump their gray tanks more freely, where it costs them quite a bit to have those all pumped and so forth. So that's a big part of what's going to happen here is a sewage connection, which really means gray tanks for their food carts.
And I don't know much about food carts other than that I enjoy going to them periodically. And so in your research, I'm assuming you've done some, is there anything of the nature of consolidating the propane tanks and doing like an individual hookup that's privately metered? So you have, say, one 5,000 gallon or 2,000 or whatever size tank to service versus 10 individuals?
Well, I thought that was a really good idea too, and I did research that, and it turns out it's not as easy as it sounds. But what I believe I would require, as being the owner of the property there, you see a lot of these food carts have various sizes tanks, and some of them have small tanks that they take and fill and bring back and rehook up, and all of that gives opportunity for problems. So I think the better plan is to each cart has a 120 gallon tank, and we have one company come in, fill those on a regular basis, and those don't have to be disconnected and reconnected, and then they can be turned off at night. I think it would be really critical to turn them off at night. You know, when nobody's there is when something can leak and something go bad. That's what I am planning to do, is require just one tank that stays there. And then when the propane company comes, they kind of do they do a little inspection of what's going on, and they make sure that there's nothing, that looks damaged or whatnot when they're filling the tanks.
All right. Any other questions for Ed while we got him? Thank you, Ed. We might call you back if we come on something, okay?
Okay, thanks, Ben.
Is there anybody else in the audience that would like to speak on behalf of the applicant?
I think you have 2 speaker request forms.
I do. First one on the top of the pile here is David Jarrett, 156 Northwest 6th Avenue. David, if you'd like to come up, I've already said your name and address, but you could say it again if you'd like. And introduce yourself real quick and let us know what your thoughts are. And
yeah, my name is David Jarrett, and I'm the owner operator of Granny's. And you guys have already kind of hit upon my major concerns. Number one, parking. By his application, if he has 10 food carts, he's going to have at least 10 employees there, not his employees, but 10 operators there. And many of the food carts have more than one operator in them. So his on-site parking is really only going to be sustainable for the employees at 1 per. If you have an average, I think he said 1 to 3 employees per cart. So if you take the average of 2, that's 20 parking spaces just for the people that are going to work the pod. I don't know where the patrons are going to park outside of on the other side of 6th or on Broadway or stretch out. So if it ends up being a successful food pod, it's going to be a nightmare for traffic. It's going to be a nightmare for parking. And I already submitted a letter to the staff. It's included. And a perfect example of this is, again, drive east through Sandy. right next to Portlandia, and you got cars parked on the gas station side, you got cars parked on the food cart side, and you got people going between the cars to get to the other side of the street to where they had to park. This is gonna be just like that. Now, I'm not against anybody being able to use their property for what it's allowed, but I think this is really stretching the limits of the improvements in the street frontage to potentially allow 10 food carts there. I think it's allowed 2, like any other lot. And again, I don't think you don't have anywhere near the problems or potential problems that you would with the size of this application.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's all I have is, like I said, the flow of traffic and the parking. Again, there's only enough parking. There's not even enough parking to sustain the people that will be working the food carts. And I see that being a major issue.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Evelyn, this other one,
She's on Zoom.
oh, she's on Zoom. Okay, perfect. Looks like we have Michelle Marthaler, 760 North Broadway Street.
Yes.
Hi, Michelle.
Hi, my name's Michelle Marthaler. I live at 760 North Broadway Street. My concerns are parking, even though there's 10 spots. That's not really what I would say was enough either. Even if you add 4 out on the street, there's just not, and it's a busy. That is one of my concerns. My other biggest concern is that traffic is already busy and you have little kids crossing that street. I believe if that's where you go, it needs to be a 4-way stop, and you need to put in the lights for the kids to cross those streets on both sides right there, because it's already a problem. I live right there. I don't know how many times I've had to help kids get across the street, including my own. Cars don't stop, and let me tell you, they stop at the other occasionally, but they're punching it to get to the other side. They're not even doing 25. So that is a big concern when you're adding that much traffic there.
All right. Thank you, Michelle.
Yep.
Sorry. Is there anybody else who would like to speak on the application? Whether for or in opposition? Okay, it doesn't appear so. Yeah, go ahead and step to the mic and introduce yourself, and I'll give you a couple minutes here to speak
And
freely.
can you also just make sure to fill out a speaker request form after? Thank you.
So my name is Tom Thompson, and I'm the owner of Timbertown Grub. One of my big concerns is that there's carts that we do have in town. They are spread out. They're not in one location. Everybody seems to think that one location is going to be the best scenario for those food carts. It's not. The reasons why, and I'll let you know why, is, for instance, you've had 2 or 3 carts next to each other here in different locations in town. There's only been just a couple of them been able to withstand, because there's not enough people coming to the food carts, regardless whether it be a pod or not a pod. They're still struggling and going under in town. So now you're going to put 10 of these together. You think 10 of these are going to withstand together in a 1-year time? Absolutely not. You're going to have businesses being lost left and right. And these people are small businesses trying to be an entrepreneur, just like myself and everybody else. And you're going to bury them before they even get started. Bury them. And I just don't understand. And does this place also meet the criteria of a food cart pod, of the spacing that has to be adequate apart from all of them? There's numerous things that fall into play with all of that, besides the kids, the point where it's at. It's just not a feasible spot. I understand that, that somebody wants to build and do something there, but this scenario is not the scenario. I really want everybody to reconsider all of that with that many pods, with that many people in town. I mean, myself, I have a place right here and I have a tenant with me. And just to even try to withstand And I'm busy, my wife and I work we don't have a whole lot of employees either. We have one. And that's the reason why, is because there's not enough people to make it withstand, to make it happen in this town. So the ones that are here, like Pepe's, they've been here for years and years and years. Are you going to put the kibosh to them too as well, that have been here for many, many years, by putting these other ones up above that gives these people other options to go to? When we're already, I think we're doing just fine with what we have in town. We need other places, other restaurants. That would be better. But to do the food cart pod, you're asking for just pure tragedy to a lot of people. Besides the pedestrians, the people that are going to be working the cart, the owners, it's just not a feasible spot for that kind of establishment. And that's all I got to say.
Thank you. Will you make sure to fill out one of those forms? So we can include your testimony into the record here. Is there anybody else who wants to speak? Doesn't appear like there's anybody online that's raising their hand. So let's go ahead and close down the public hearing, and we will enter back into our planning commission meeting, where we have the duty to make a motion and a decision on what the fate of this is. We can approve with conditions, add some more conditions.
I will.
And then
Sure.
does this go on to the council, you said, Alan?
Nope, planning commission is the final decider.
Planning commission is a final say on conditional uses. Okay. So approve with conditions as presented by staff, approve, change or remove conditions, and or deny.
I'll make a motion to approve with conditions.
I'll second that motion.
Let's discuss. You want firsties or you want me to?
You can go, and then I'll go.
I appreciate the idea, the plan and everything. I just, I'm concerned a lot about the parking, before even we had the, people come up and speak. I know I've been, like I said, I frequent food carts when I can, and, between the one in Oregon City, the one in Clackamas and Troutdale, they all have somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 to 10 parking spots per cart. And they're always chaotic. The one in Happy Valley is absolutely nuts. Oregon City, the same thing. There are people parking both sides of the street under the railroad trestle and everything else. So I feel like if this moves forward with 10 spots, we better plan on having cars stretched out to the high school, the middle school, any direction on a nice summer evening when all these carts are open and serving good food. So I'm very uncomfortable with it. I'm also very uncomfortable with allowing access off the alleyway and not requiring some form of improvement to that road. Granny's is right next door. They paved the apron, and it's probably not out of the kindness of their heart, but out of need. And I'm just assuming, but that much traffic coming off of a gravel intersection onto 6th Avenue, it's just not going to work. And so I think we need to consider making that a condition. I feel like the idea is good. I feel like maybe just way too many carts and not enough parking. And I'll leave it at that.
Do we want to have Ed speak to the parking and employees?
Ed has his hand raised.
Can I do that legally? Once we have a motion on the floor, can we have the applicant?
Still on motion, so we have to.
I'm a poor parliamentarian. I don't really know the rules there.
Elena,
Is Elena still here?
Just a
She
quick
is.
point of order. I think once we're in the motion is what we
Okay.
have to be concerned with. And if we want to move off this motion, we'll just go ahead and vote no on
I-
motion, and then.
Or I can withdraw it
make
so
a-
we can talk
Remake a
to,
motion.
I'll withdraw it. And we can ask Ed about that. If that's what we have to do to get a question answered about it, then yeah, I'm happy to withdraw it.
That option works, yeah, to withdraw it.
Okay, so the motion's withdrawn. Ed, I see your hand raised. Go ahead and there you go. You should be unmuted now.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I think these are all good comments. One idea I have, and I don't know when the proper time is to propose it, and maybe now is the right time, but along Broadway Street, you'll notice that there's a 15-foot strip of land between the street and my property. If you look at the aerial view of it on my plot plan, there you go. You see the 15-foot strip of land. If you go down that block to in front of the pregnancy center, there's angled in parking like it is in downtown on Broadway Street. And I own the two houses that are between this property and the pregnancy center. I have thought, you know, if I need to replace these sidewalks anyway, it would be a really good idea to just bring angled parking all the way from the corner of 6th and Broadway all the way down to the pregnancy center. And that would add at least 15 more parking spaces. And the parking spaces at the pregnancy center really aren't used very much. And so that would give us probably a good 20 spaces along Broadway. And I think that would be actually a good improvement for that area.
Thank
Is
you.
that, do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm looking at the aerial, I'm on my own computer here. I'm looking at the aerial photos of it and I see that there's 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe 8 spots on the Pregnancy Resource Center side. Sorry, not on where you're at.
Right.
You continue that up there. Okay.
So just continue that along Broadway. That's kind of what Broadway was made that width for, is so that there could be parking along there that way.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And like I said, I own the other two houses, so, you know, it's.
Are you
not
talking
with that.
about bringing that parking, you know, all the way towards 6th? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got it. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Ed.
Yeah.
Any other questions while we have Ed right here, guys, gals? Okay. Since we're kind of open the public hearing back up, Mr. Jarrett, is that right? Dave Jarrett, go ahead and come to the mic again. And
So again, if he increases the parking down Broadway, I'm just curious, is there any kind of criteria, whether it's county and or city, as to, like you addressed, how many parking spots are needed for per car? Because again, I'm looking and saying that half of what he's estimating employees, even with the increased parking, the street parking, that just covers the employees of the cars.
Yeah, the city code is very clear on this point. It's 1 off-street parking space per cart.
1 off-street parking
Yes.
space.
So that's how
Okay.
10 satisfies the city's requirement for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Alan, where did we derive that code from? Since food carts are a relatively new thing in the
I have no
SKO?
idea. Yeah, I was here when I got here. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, can we require him to have more parking spots than the code requires?
You can in this case because it's a conditional use application. And so the planning commission has some latitude here. I mean, you couldn't probably require 1,000 spots, but you know,
strange to do if that's what the number
Well-
is. There's a reason for that. And then why would we in this case require more than that? And then I guess my other question is, can we require, if he's saying he's willing to create more off-street parking, which by the way, would benefit all of the businesses around there, including Granny's, which has 9 parking spots and usually at least 4 or 5 employees at a time.
Mhm.
How would we require that? How would we require that on this proposal when it addresses 2 other properties? Or can we? If he's saying he's willing to do that, can we add that as a condition of approval?
Well, this is a little tricky with the 15-foot strip because that's city property. So this is something that we would have to get city approval for. I don't know what else that area is going to be used for. I think there's a good chance that the city would sign off on just making that public parking. But yeah, I mean, as far as the
Are you saying that that has to go back to the city council? If you make that a condition of this actually has to go to the city council, so they would decide.
I don't know that it has, I don't know. I don't think it has to go to the city council, but a representative of the city would have to sign off on it. Basically, Melanie, the city manager,
Sure.
would have to sign off on that.
I got you.
But yeah, you can require additional parking spaces. Parking spaces don't have to be, or off-street parking spaces don't have to be provided on site. They could be provided on another property with permission. Planning commission could require, yeah, I mean, I think the proposal, the Ed's proposal is viable. Does that answer your question, Tara?
Yeah.
This is Elena. I would expect that if his proposal was, it would need to be evaluated by the city engineer. I have concerns about the power poles and the way they are spaced and whether it would be feasible to put parking in there, which would be, you would have to have it engineered. So that is just my clarification.
I personally, I don't think that we need to require more parking. I don't see a reason that the county required number of parking spaces should be expanded for this, especially, I mean, realistically, a lot of this cart pods customers are probably going to come on foot from nearby places, or as you know, like the high school or whatever with the open campus. I have doubts that there will ever be 10 food carts in here at once. I mean, it's not part of our purview to consider the success of a business and make our decisions based on that. But it seems unlikely that it'll be packed full at all times with 10 different businesses. And I just don't see, saying no to this out of requiring more parking.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure, go ahead, Aaron.
Is there any way to require or request a traffic flow analysis? I'm not sure exactly what it would be called, but something that's a little bit more formal that can address some of these concerns and maybe can alleviate some concerns or possibly raise some other questions. Is that an option, or?
Yes, it is an option to require that as a condition.
Can we do that as a continuation? We get that and then this comes back to us?
You could continue this application. You could also require that, I think that if you're going to require a traffic analysis, you would need to say that it would need to meet certain specific, like come in at a certain number or something like that. If you're going to require that as a condition.
And would we then have to apply that to what other, say he comes in with a gas station as the next proposal, which would have much more, it's a corner lot. It's going to be developed like, I just wonder what would be an acceptable amount on a busy city commercial spot. That would be.
I was kind of thinking more, along the lines of, yes, that would address the parking, but also some of the other concerns about the high pedestrian use in that area. The fact that there's, just the stop sign on Broadway. It's not a four-way stop. There's no crosswalks for people to get across. I mean, with the increased or the proposed increase in people here, I don't think it's unreasonable to in this particular case to ask for a better analysis on what the impact would be.
Thank you, Aaron. Okay, so we got to get this thing back in order here. I kind of opened the public hearing back up. So I'm gonna have the gentleman at the mic speak. Ed, we'll give you a chance to speak after that, and then we're gonna close the public hearing back down. Go ahead and reintroduce yourself just so everybody that isn't seeing you on the video.
My name is Tom Thompson and I own Timbertown Grub, and I want to address the parking situation with cars that are the patrons coming to those food carts. So I'll just give you a for instance for myself, for just my food cart alone. I end up on my busy times, dinner time, I can end up with 10 cars in front of my cart. Can each one of these carts withstand 10 people of orders? So now you got 10 carts and you got 10 orders. That's 100. So you could think that this area is going to be able to withstand that many cars and that many people and the parking and everything? Absolutely not. At my place, I get extremely busy a lot of times, and there's not. If I wouldn't have the gracious end of town here and having the parking that I do have, I wouldn't have enough parking for my customers alone to come. Just so to keep in mind, I can get 10, 15 cars in my parking lot at one time. And that is no joke. And it's been over the years. I've been in business for 5 years, and it's done nothing but increases the car volume. So if you got a successful cart, there may not be 10 carts in that pod. There may be only 5. And if those 5 are successful and you get 10 people coming to each one of those carts, you still have that many patrons and cars running around in that spot. And that's with half of it filled. That's all I got to say on that one, because it is an extreme thing.
Thank you. All right, Ed, last time we're coming back to you here. Everyone's gonna unmute you.
All right.
Oh,
Yeah, thank
right,
you. Got me. So real quick on the power pole question, down the parking area along where the pregnancy center is, those power poles line up with the grass median that is further down where the pregnancy center is. So they all line up. They wouldn't interfere with the sidewalk if we just continued the sidewalk from the pregnancy center. And yeah, I think this is a good discussion on parking. I did go around to several different food cart pods, and some of them have more parking. But the food cart pod that I consider to be the most like us would be Sandy. And Sandy has 9 or 10 carts there. They have space for 10. I think they had 9 when I was there. And they have, I believe, 3 to 4 parking spaces off street. And so they run theirs successfully with much less parking space than what's proposed here and what is required by the city. And I think as what they must do at Granny's, their employees park off-site somewhere and down the road. They park somewhere because, they want to leave that parking lot open for customers. So, but anyway, that answers a couple questions that came up. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Ed.
Yep.
Okay, Michelle. Okay, I'll let you talk because we're still in the public hearing. Go ahead, Michelle. I think she's unmuting you now.
Yes, my name's Michelle. I live down the street. And as far as the Pregnancy Resource Center parking, I work there, so I know that I personally use it, and so do my volunteers. So that does become an issue where you can't just say, well, that's going to be enough for all of us. We also have a doctor's office in the building where I work, and that affects it. So the parking is a really big issue. And me living down the street, I already have a lot from the school. There's not enough room to park. And I get where you're all coming from, but maybe you need to relook at what your idea for one parking spot for each food cart, that just does not seem feasible. So thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Yep.
All right, it appears that we can close down the public hearing now and go back into our planning commission meeting and discuss and make a motion.
A couple of things just jumped out at me. One, the traffic study is a must. And the other part of it, parking study or the proposed parking plan ad hoc as it is right now. We need to firm that up because we need to know exactly what's going to happen. Before we can give it a conditional use, we really need to know what's going on there. Yeah, I think Elaine brought up, electrical issues and stuff, electrical poles and things like that are in a way we need to look at that as well to make sure we're just not making a mess out of this thing, I think I mentioned the chaotic nature of this thing. And when you have people moving around freely like that, it's going to be chaotic. And a lot of them are going to be, high schoolers and stuff like that. So that intersection needs to change in a dramatic way. We need to make that intersection either a stop sign or a light or something like that, or maybe upgrade to something. I'm not sure what that would look like, but that has to be a condition of this thing as well, because we're putting a lot of people into that situation. In the high school's terms, they let out in bunches. So you're going to have a lot of people there hitting them hard and fast, and we just can't leave that up to chance.
Are you saying that we need to require this applicant to make upgrades to the intersection? You said
No.
conditional, so I'm just trying to understand what you're.
What I'm saying is that, we need to make, stop signs or something up there, or, we need to make a crosswalk. I see there is one coming from Broadway, but there really isn't one coming across 6th at that point.
But
You
can
know-
we make that conditional relative to this? I just,
Those are
Don't-
fairly easy asks, I think. I
but
think
asks for who?
That'd be for the city to do. The most important thing of it, so far as a motion would be concerned, would be the parking on Broadway. And I think that's an absolute must do, but we've got to figure out, is the city willing to do that or allow us to do that or allow this? I don't know, and conditional use is, I don't know how that works with a conditional use. It's kind of new territory here.
Can we make a proposal that this is approved on the condition that he works with the city to get parking on Broadway, the parallel or the angled parking? And then if that doesn't, he needs to come back with a different plan,
Yeah, you could add that as a condition.
because that would double the amount of parking that he's providing or close to it.
Yeah, you could add that as a condition.
Aaron, I know you had brought up the traffic or parking study. Is that something you want to include in this?
Yeah, I think it's important if we're gonna, it's something that's gonna affect a lot of people. And I think it's important that it's included.
Can I just ask then, I'm just thinking, we do these subdivisions, we approve these subdivisions. They have traffic impact that says it's going to make the intersections near there at a D or E grade, and we go ahead and approve them anyway. If we're going to require one for this development of a commercial lot, what are we going to say is what's going to be the number, or what's going to be the criteria by which we say, oh, that's okay, or no, that's not, and that's this individual landowner's responsibility. I'm just really confused about about what's the criteria in that situation, and how is, you know, that when we approve the subdivisions, that how is that working versus how this is working, and how, and the improvements that we want to see. I mean, I think it's reasonable to want to see improved crosswalks and stop signs at at that intersection, probably regardless of whether this goes in or not. But how is all of this going to work together? All of these things that we want out of this, how is this going to work? And what are we requiring from this specific landowner?
Tara, those are good questions. And I don't know, the way I try to digest this, I don't know if it makes sense the way I'm going to explain it, is Ed's trying to develop this lot with 10 food carts, and it's going to have let's call it an adverse effect with increased traffic, whether it's pedestrian or cars or parking or whatever else, on all the neighboring properties. Whereas a subdivision, they go through the traffic impact study, and we can't necessarily put on them that River Mill intersection is going to fail because we added 25 or 400 houses. So the property owner is responsible for what's going on his property, i.e. parking for each house, street width, curbs, sidewalks, all the gamut of everything. And so I guess, again, my way of thinking is we're putting Ed is responsible for everything within his property lines, but that property has to be able to accommodate what's going to be going on there business wise, parking wise, employees and everything else. Much like a subdivision, they're required to have 2 parking spots per house and sidewalks and all the ADA stuff at the intersections and everything else. So,
But that's parking, and that's different than requiring a traffic study. That's my question. The parking, I guess I disagree with people's concerns about the parking. I just don't see it as being much of an issue. And I see a lot, I mean, our downtown, if I want to go to the Wednesday's Wine or whatever, there's not 10 parking spaces available to me. It's fine. But you know, if other people have a concern about the parking spaces, I accept that. My question is about this traffic study and how that works with what we're going to require here, what we're going to allow here. Say something else comes in, or say he has some other idea. Is that going to be subject to the same criteria as this with regard to traffic in the area? How is Ed responsible for the crosswalks or any other traffic on the roads? It's just, I'm just trying to understand what we're asking, if we're asking a traffic study.
I gotcha.
My thought on that issue is that we have to look at the density in the area, you know, and the periodic density doesn't really mitigate anything. You know, Granny's, it doesn't have a full parking lot every hour of the day. You know, they have their periods where they're busy. They have their periods when they're not. You know, traffic comes and goes, you know, out of that area. What we need to do is try to match the densities of people traveling through the area, plus what's going on with the schools and the potential customers hitting that location at any one particular time. And we got to make that experience as safe as we can.
Right, but how are,
well,
what's
it's
the criteria, and why is Ed responsible for it and no other property owner in the area? And, you know, that's what would be acceptable to us as criteria?
Well, this is a new development along his property lines. We're not asking him to do anything extraordinary anywhere else. You know, he's really not responsible for putting a crosswalk, you know, across 6th Street or, you know, repainting, you know, the crosswalk on Broad. That's not his responsibility. It's actually the city's. But, you know, to make his project more viable, something like extending the parking down Broadway, that benefits him as well. You know, it benefits the city. It's symbiotic, you know. We're both benefited. He gets something he needs for his customers. The city gets something they need in general, you know. It's like adding new sidewalks along it, you know. It's improving everything in that area. And as we improve things, we also have to look at, you know, what's going on big picture, you know. And some of this talk is that, I get it, but
Tara, to your point, I don't know if we do require a traffic study or it goes into parking. I don't know what we do with that and how we analyze that and say yay or nay to that. I just don't have the answer for that. I don't know what matrix we're looking at.
And I guess I also like that, there'd be uses on this corner, presumably that would be not conditional. I don't know if a gas station is one. That's something that comes to mind just because it's a corner in a commercial
Mhm,
area.
A gas
s-
station is allowed outright, I
So
believe. Yeah.
That'd be allowed outright, and we wouldn't require a traffic study for that. That would have arguably way more traffic. So how do we justify saying a food cart pod requires a traffic study when a much more traffic heavy this place is zoned for a much more traffic heavy business to come there. So I'm just, if we're gonna ask him to do this study, I just want to make sure that we're on reasonable legal footing and that we have a criteria that we're requiring.
Okay. It looks like we have Elena Turpin's hand raised up. She might be providing us
I
some.
was just going to suggest that I understand that you guys don't feel that you have necessarily the knowledge to evaluate what would be appropriate. And so I would suggest if you're going to request a traffic study, have it be a traffic engineer that would evaluate it instead of yourself. Somebody who has the education and skills and knowledge to know what would be acceptable or not acceptable.
But acceptable or acceptable against what criteria? Like how would we judge what is acceptable and not? Tara, is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I'm just saying, like if a high traffic, something like a gas station is an outright allowable thing here, which would have more trip volume, how would we then say there's some that, how could we set our criteria at anything lower than what the absolute highest outright allowed usage of traffic at that spot would be? If that makes sense, because otherwise I can just come back and say you're holding me to a criteria that you aren't holding other businesses to here.
You forgot to add the term as they develop.
I don't know what that means.
Well, you think about it, we're developing a property that is raw right now. And as we develop, we need to upgrade as we go along. This whole city is about what's going on out there. We're slowly upgrading ourselves from what was old to what is new, right? And so we have to kind of figure out what we're upgrading ourselves to. And put it frankly, we need to upgrade. I mean, there's no other way. I mean, we need to put those sidewalks in there. They need to be upgraded. They're in horrible shape right now. This is that opportunity, in the traffic situation. Yeah, I get your point. I know it's going to be a problem because it's just as we put those carts there or a gas station goes there or anything goes there, you're going to increase the frequency of people being there, and if we're increasing the people being in any one particular place, then we have to have that infrastructure available that, maximizes safety. It's just what you have to do.
No, I agree. I'm not disagreeing with you about that. I'm just saying an outright use there right now could put in a high traffic thing and we would have no ability to say anything about it if he wanted to put in a gas station. So what's the criteria?
I think the hang up for me is that we have 10 individual businesses, potentially 11, because you're going to have a staff person there cleaning bathrooms and picking up garbage and whatever else. So call it 11 individual businesses operating out of a 9,000 square foot lot. That to me seems woefully inadequate parking wise. Whereas a gas station, yes, you're going to have a bunch of traffic, but there's a matrix for parking for said convenience store and parking lot, much like we went through on the new parking lot down on closer to the new mill property, the old mill property, however we want to phrase it, that has specific trip volume and parking spots required, apron sizes required for egress and ingress for those vehicles coming in and out of there. And so I feel like it's better delineated in our code because those are more, I don't want to say normal, but more established businesses to our code. Whereas these food cart pods are relatively new. We've had them for 5 or 10 years or whatever it is now, and they're popping up here and there. And I just feel like our code is inadequate. We can't say that on this specifically and say, sorry, one spot's not okay. I can look at Oregon City, they have 4 or 5. Troutdale has 4 or 5. Happy Valley has 4 or 5 spots. We can't go off of their code, but what we can say is please provide something that says one spot is gonna be okay. Because I feel like that I'm setting the whole community up for failure at this, and everybody's gonna look at the planning commission 2 years down the road and go, what the heck did they do in approving this? What a bunch of idiots.
Well, I mean, and again, that's the parking versus the traffic study. If we're having concerns with the parking, I have less concern about about that, making some changes as, hey, do we want to allow him 8 spots or whatever it is? My specific concern is with the traffic study, not the parking. I mean,
Okay.
I don't think I think his point about Sandy is a good one. Like that has way less parking spots. It works fine. There's food carts don't tend to function as individual brick and mortar businesses. And we also don't have, parking requirements for the same brick and mortar businesses, but whatever. Yeah. If we want to address parking differently, that's totally fine. Let's talk about that. I just think that we have to separate that from the traffic study, which seems like a shaky proposition to me.
Okay. All right, we've discussed this a lot. I think everybody knows where I feel. And I'll state it again. I think the parking is woefully inadequate, and I think it's just going to propose problems. So I can't make a motion. I need somebody on the commission to do so.
Are we at that point?
I think so, unless we want to discuss more.
I'd like to make a motion to approve this with the condition that he is able to add parking along Broadway Street as he interpreted there.
We have a motion. We have a second.
I'll second that.
All right. We have a motion. We have a second. I'm going to ask, how many parking spots do you want to add?
Well, I think if he added it, if he has 10 there, he should be able to put close to 10 down this strip and even more because he's willing to do it in front of the 2 homes that he already owns without even getting to the pregnancy center. So that would more than double the allowed parking there. And the reason that I'd bypass your the study is, like she said, if an outright approved business goes in there, we're not gonna have any say, and they're gonna, I mean, I go to a food court all the time by my kid's house off 82nd that has at least 10 food pods down there, and they have maybe 10 spots, and it's never a problem. I mean, we mostly walk down there, and I think that's not his issue. That's a bigger city issue.
Okay. Any other discussion? So all those in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand.
Aye.
1, and Tara, I can't see your hand.
Yeah, my hand's up.
Okay, perfect. All right, so we have 2 in favor. All those opposed, please raise your right hand or say aye. Aye. Aaron, where do you stand on this?
I'm in favor.
In favor, okay. So motion carries 3-2 then. So then, with the conditions and with the additional conditions, they will move forward with planning staff. Okay. In the event that the city cannot allow this, how does that work?
Well, then the use would not be approved then. But I would like to clarify, what is the number of parking spaces that we're asking for? That's kind of, I guess I should have. Now that it carried him,
I would think
kind of
at
need a
least
number.
double it to 20.
20. Okay,
um,
should we do another vote?
I thought that's what John had said, that the
You said
10
20.
on the street,
We're
the
20.
10 on the
double.
lot and then
Okay.
10 more on the
If
street.
that was very clear in the, yeah, if that was very clear in the motion, then, okay.
Just a quick question. Let's say that this plan doesn't go as planned, and maybe it gets revised to where there's only 7 parking spots. Is it better to put a number of spots per food cart versus a number of spots per the 10? You guys follow me?
Yeah.
So like if we want 25 spots total for this.
Yeah.
And he revises it to,
Oh,
sorry,
I
let
see
me
what
back.
you're saying. Yep,
Yeah.
yep, yep, yep.
So do we want 3 parking spots per food cart, or 2.5, or is it 1? Is it 2? Would that be better?
could- That probably would be better, yeah. I mean, so I wrote the conditions, or at least the first condition, if this gets approved, to allow a maximum of 10 carts, so that he would have latitude to, say maybe only 7 actually fit or whatever. And in that case, the code would require 7 parking spots. The planning commission would like to require more parking. I think it would be wise to also do X number of parking spots per cart.
Okay.
Yeah. So in this case, it would be 2 per cart.
We have to specify, it doesn't have to be on the property. It has to be, it has to be somewhere within vicinity of it. And then again, you gotta ask, how far is considered in the vicinity of it?
Well, he's increasing it right there. I mean,
Yeah,
he's
I get that
increasing the
part, yeah.
parking to 20, and that was the motion.
So 20 is what the number is?
Yeah.
Okay, so officially 10 food carts, 20 spots
Mhm.
is what the motion is.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right, thanks.
Everyone, we good with that? You're the legal body. Okay. All right, thank you, everybody.
Can I ask one more question? I'm sorry.
Yes.
And Tara, I really appreciate your input on this. I'm pretty new and trying to get this figured out. But if we are not able to, requires a conditional use, that traffic survey, how does that get pushed forward to the city? Or how does that traffic study move forward so that overall this is addressed?
So I can try to address that. So the city has an adopted transportation system plan that identifies certain intersections for upgrades over the next 10, 20 years. That intersection, I'd have to look at the plan, but I imagine that there's some project planned for that intersection. I can get back to the planning commission and share with you all like what exactly those plans are. Yeah, I mean, that's so the study for the whole city has been done in the last couple years, and that would inform the improvements that get made to the transportation system. Does that make
So,
sense?
we just contracted with a group who's going to do a safe routes to school study that will be evaluating the traffic as it goes past up Broadway and then past River Mill Elementary, which would include that little section right there too.
That's excellent. Thank you. I appreciate the
Mhm.
input.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other question on this, or can we move on to conditional use 2025-04-CU?
Sorry, Ben, I need 2-3 minutes.
2 or 3 minutes.
All right.
Coming your way. All right, we're gonna take a momentary recess. Okay, we'll go ahead and open the planning commission meeting back up here at 12:28. Thanks for the quick recess. One thing on our previous conditional use 2025-03-CU, the 6th Avenue food cart pod. We were talking about 6th Avenue and Broadway. The city of Estacada actually has on their traffic public safety committee website, or link on their website. If you go down to traffic data reports, if you really want something to dig into, we have an always stop control analysis by DKS dated June 12th of 2024. So this is probably the newest, latest, and greatest information on the 6th Avenue and Broadway. And it goes through and it lays out parameters of which different triggers of traffic impact on that particular intersection and what is needed, changing that from a two-way to a four-way. And so if anybody has any further questions on that, reflect on that. And it has all sorts of great information from hours and vehicles traveled, timing and everything else. So I'm just gonna throw that little piece of information out there. And then we're gonna move on to conditional use 2025-04-CU, which is the barbecue barn drive-through, of which I'm thoroughly excited to hear what we got here.
All
Let's
right.
go, Alan.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and present my staff report for that. So yeah, 2025-04-CU, the Southwest Beach drive-through. The applicant is Steve Block, who is in our presence today. The site address is 519 Southwest Beach Road, at that tax lot shown there in the downtown zone. And the proposal is to develop a drive-through facility to accompany a new restaurant business, the Barbecue Barn. And for this application, we received comments from the city engineer, public works director, and the fire marshal. And here is the subject site provided by the applicant. So we see it's northeast of the community center, south of the highway. And there's a home on the adjacent property to the south, and a renovated restaurant on site on that southeast property line. In comp plan to zoning, we have, we see downtown there. That's the pink and white stripes. And then the orange is R3, which is our multiple family residential. And here we have the site plan. So here, I don't know if you see my cursor, but we have the restaurant here. And then we have the drive-through circulation path indicated here by the blue arrows. And then we have the proposed fence. The fence is in dark orange there, and the a row of cypresses is indicated by, it's next to the green line there. And that would be for screening of the vehicle queuing path. All right, so getting into the approval criteria. So 16.26 is the downtown zoning chapter, and drive-through facilities, as you can read here, are listed as conditional use in downtown. And standards for drive-throughs in downtown are found in this section. The first standard refers to EMC 16.116, which is a chapter usually reserved for land divisions like partitions and subdivisions. However, the standard here requires us to review drive-through applications against the vehicle access standards in that chapter, but I will get to those later. But what I wanted to focus on is the second subsection, which includes standards specific to drive-through facilities. And here those are. So driveway access and vehicle queuing areas for drive-through facilities shall be screened to reduce off-site impacts such as vehicle noise, light spillover, and should be designed to avoid parked, waiting, or backing vehicles from encroaching into pedestrian walkways or public right-of-way. And based on the applicant's responses, the site plan, and the submitted transportation analysis memo completed by ARD Engineering, staff finds that this proposal meets or can meet those criteria with conditions of approval. And that brings us to the chapter on conditional uses. And so I'll go through the five main approval criteria for those. So as we saw, drive-throughs are a conditional use in downtown. Site characteristics are suitable for the proposed use. It's the second criteria. Site and proposed development must be timely and can be supported by existing services. The proposed use will not alter the character of surrounding area in a way that limits or impairs the use of surrounding properties. And the fifth, proposal satisfies the goals and policies of the comprehensive plan. And staff finds that all criteria in this section are met or can be met with conditions of approval. And as we discussed with the last application, 1688-020 gives planning commission authority to impose additional conditions which are considered necessary to protect the best interest of the surrounding area and the city as a whole. And these are those again. And just as a note, staff is not recommending the imposition of any conditions apart from what's required by city code. And there's the one last code chapter that I mentioned earlier in the presentation. So only the vehicle access criteria apply to this application. Those standards are located under subsection D of this chapter. And after reviewing all the relevant vehicle access criteria, staff finds that all are met or can be met with conditions of approval. And that concludes staff's review of relevant approval criteria for this application. Our recommendation is to approve the drive-through as proposed. There are only 5 conditions of approval. I'll just go through this really quickly. The approval is limited to a drive-through facility at the proposed location as described. The Public Works Director has requested that no parking signs be installed along Southwest Beach frontage to mitigate any hazards from vehicles leaving the drive-through area. The vehicle area should be screened as proposed. Building permits should resemble the approved conditional use, and the conditional use would be valid for 2 years, meaning that construction of the drive-through would need to begin within 2 years. All right, so we can hear public comment if there's any. Commission is free to ask questions and discuss, and then we'll have a motion to approve with changes or deny with findings.
Thank you. First, I just want to ask, is there any ex parte contact that needs to be noted on this? Doesn't appear so. So let's go ahead and ask any questions if we have them for planning staff. It doesn't appear that we have any questions. So let's go ahead and enter into the public hearing portion. We can ask the applicant and or representative to come on up and speak on behalf of this if you'd like.
How you doing?
Excellent.
Good. Good.
Steve, welcome.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for taking on this project.
Yes, sir.
The drive-through, I have a question. I guess I should have done this before the public hearing. Wasn't there a previous drive-through in there?
There was a drive-through there. It's kind of it's up for question, like how long it's been since it's functioned. Since it's a conditional use, if that use is stopped for more than 1 year, then it needs to be applied for again. And so, yeah, it's like conditional uses and non-conforming uses. There's like kind of a year of grandfathering in, and then once that year passes, then it has to apply again.
Excellent. Okay. You want to give us a little rundown on the business and what we're doing here? Just to make sure we covering all of our bases?
Yeah. Well, it's been there over 40 years. It was built with a drive-through. It operated most of the time with a drive-through, and we're gonna reopen it. We've, the renovation that we're doing there, and we're just gonna have a nice drive-through. And it was kind of a surprise to us that we had this happen, but so that's what we're doing. We're putting a barbecue restaurant in, and all the circulation is there. We have double the parking that we need. I mean, all of that stuff. So no parking issues on this one. Okay. And we got lots of room for a lot of cars.
Excellent.
Not gonna be any issues on anything backing up or anything.
And then as far as the proposed screening, the Leon cypress and the fence, no issues there?
No, they're in. You can see them over there. They're taller than the fence. They're over 6 feet tall, and they're beautiful, as you'll see.
Excellent.
Yeah, they're all in. And our number one objective going into this was to make sure we take care of our neighbors. We didn't need anybody to tell us that. We were putting those in anyways. And we went to our neighbors, we talked to our neighbors, we explained what we're doing from the beginning, and everybody's very happy.
Excellent.
So, yeah.
Thank you. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
that.
Appreciate you.
Any questions for Steve before he leaves the mic?
Nope.
Doesn't appear so. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, any additional public comment on this, whether it's for or in opposition? Doesn't look like we have any hands raised in the crowd or online, so let's go ahead and exit the public hearing and we'll go back into the planning commission meeting. Any questions, concerns we need to discuss? Okay, so it looks like we need a motion. We have was it 5 conditions of approval, I think, that are met or will be met. So
I move to approve 2025-04 CU as with all the conditions as recommended by staff.
motion? Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
All right, we got a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion needed? All right, all those in favor, please raise your right hand.
I,
Aye.
I as well.
Aaron? All right,
Aye.
we got 5-0. Thank you. Motion passes. This will be directed to the planning staff to finalize this, and you guys should be good to go. Estimated time on the barbecue barn opening.
All right, that's
November
good.
12th. All right, thank you guys, appreciate it.
Thank you. I'll be there.
Hey,
Wait a minute, I may not, I may be in Texas, I'm not sure.
my uncle started a barbecue barn in Lancaster Mall back in the 80s. Barbecue barn, it was awesome.
All right, moving on to sign code amendments. This is a continuation from our last meeting. I believe it was in September. We had a few questions we wanted answered, and I think the reason it's on here is those have probably been accommodated for us. So,
I sure hope so.
all right.
I appreciate that. It looks much clearer than the previous day, for sure.
Alan, go ahead with the staff report.
All right, thank you. All right, I will present my staff report for ordinance 2025-008, which we're calling the sign code amendments. All right, just a recap. So by early 2025, planning staff had recognized that the city's code regulations regarding signage is often very difficult for applicants to interpret and for staff to apply and enforce for a variety of reasons. The format's complicated, definitions and standards are unclear often, and there were various other shortcomings. So in April of this year, the council directed staff to draft revisions to sign code language with the aim of simplifying and clarifying existing regulations. So then in June, we proposed a new organizational structure for the main sign code chapter, that's 16.72, as well as the addition of supplemental visual materials, including pictures, figures, and sign types and allowances table. At that meeting, council directed staff to draft the proposed code amendments and supplementary materials. And that's basically what comprises the ordinance 2025-008. And as you all know, I presented the ordinance last month to Planning Commission, and it was decided to continue that meeting until today. So I'll give just kind of a nutshell summary of the proposal. So this ordinance would enact the following code revisions. It's a full reorganization of 16.72. There are amendments to sign standards and references in 8 other chapters of the development code. It would clarify and expand definitions related to signage. Contradictory, needless, legally indefensible language has been deleted as much as possible. We're adding a picture glossary of sign types, which is included in this version. It was not included last month. We've made every effort to remove content-based language, and some policies have been altered as requested by council regarding signage. And yeah, if there are any questions about specific sections of the draft amendments, I can address those after the presentation. But several of you, as been mentioned, several of you asked questions about the draft amendments at the last meeting. I took note of those and addressed all those issues when was possible in the amendments themselves, and I just wanted to report back to you all today. And so pole signs, this was a question that Commissioner Carpenter asked about. I think he was dreaming of a big Taco Bell pole sign at some point in Estacade's future. And so doing a little bit of a deeper dive into the comp plan policies, we found that there are several policies that specifically prohibit this kind of signage, especially along the highway. So for instance, this one's for the downtown zone. It's to implement regulations for signs that require pedestrian scale signage while prohibiting large auto-oriented signage. You know, there's also this one in the highway commercial zone to prohibit pole signs to protect the aesthetics of the area. And then I also found one for the outdoor commercial zone to only allow signs if they do not disrupt the overall natural aesthetic of the area. And so these policies have led to clear prohibitions on these large auto-oriented signs in most of the zones along the highway, which are riverfront commercial, highway commercial, and outdoor commercial. So unfortunately, we can't, at this time, those won't be allowed in those zones. Tara asked about political signs. And so, yeah, just to give kind of a recap there. So in 2024, some of you remember, I'm sure, the council asked to make political signage exempt from permitting requirements, and that was passed. So now with this more comprehensive sign code update, we're aiming to remove all content-based regulations. And so that would remove any kind of standards that indicated what kind of content was on signs. And so the solution, after many conversations with our interim city attorney, the solution right now is to exempt all temporary signs from permit requirements. However, they would be subject to time, space, and manner regulations. So yeah, so if you had this election sign, say you want Elena Turpin, who's running for Mill City Council, you want to promote her, you would not need to get a sign permit for that, but your temporary sign would only be allowed to be posted for 6 months. And it could only be a certain size in certain zones, et cetera. So that's the time, space, manner regulations.
Quick question on that real quick.
Yeah,
can I?
sure.
So political signs, I think we all kind of, or at least I imagine those being city council, presidential elections, state elections, whatever. How far are the guardrails? Like, let's say it's a Confederate flag on one side. Does that fall into that? Or say like a Black Lives Matter on the other? Is
So
that,
we're removing the definition of political signs. It would just be considered a temporary sign.
it's just a temporary sign outright?
It's a temporary sign.
So-
So we would not regulate the content of it. So you could have a Confederate flag, you could have a Black Lives Matter, you could have Elena Turpin for city council, temporary sign. It's subject to time, space, manner regulation.
Okay.
Don't
Yeah.
you have a tighter definition of flags here being allowed that says has to be a nationally recognized flag?
Can we hold off on other?
Yes,
Okay. Yeah. I want to answer everyone's questions. Yeah. I just want to get through this real. Okay. Okay. Well, just before did that answer your political temporary?
Yeah, so that falls into that bucket though, like, right?
Yep.
Time, space, manner.
Yep. Exactly.
No permit required, boom,
Yep.
time, space, manner, done.
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, sure. There's also, I think Tara asked about signage on structures intended for a separate use. There's just kind of confusion as to what that meant. So I just included a picture here. There's this basically signage on this Goodwill trailer. This is not signage that the city is regulating, because it has to do with the use on the structure itself. And so we kind of tweaked the language a little bit here to better describe what is being exempted from sign permit requirements.
Yeah, you added related to the structures intended. So that
Exactly.
made total sense to me. So
Okay, great.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, great. Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to jump into the approval criteria. And we went through this at the last hearing, but just to, I'll run through it again. So in order for the council to adopt this ordinance, which involves amending the city's development code, all relevant approval criteria must be met. So in this case, that includes the statewide planning goals, Estacade's comprehensive plan policies, and our development code. Specifically chapter 16.128, and that's what I'll start with. So there's 4 sections in this chapter, and here's the first. All legislative amendments may be initiated only by planning commission or city council. These amendments were initiated by council, so this criterion is met. The second section here is just basically the procedure, how these amendments have to go, the process for amendments. So right now we are performing the first bullet point. Planning commission makes a recommendation to city council upon completion of a public hearing. And then these other two bullet points, at which point this ordinance is adopted. If it's adopted, they will also go through these two parts of the process. And so these criteria will all be met. And so findings shall be made after the adoption or denial. Either way, findings shall be made and made public and made public, published. And they need to be consistent and in conformance with all regulations of the development code and the comp plan. These criteria will also be met. And finally, there's this limitation criterion that no application for an amendment to the development code shall be considered by planning commission within 1 year period immediately following a previous denial of a request. And no similar amendment has been proposed and that denied in the last year, so this criterion is met. And so we can move on to discussing statewide planning goals and the comp plan goals. Okay, so the city sent published information about this hearing to the local paper, and it was published on the city website. We also sent notice to the state planning agency, the DLCD, and cities following all other pertinent land use laws related to public hearings. And so these procedural goals have all been met or are currently being met. And so most state and comp plan goals don't apply to these amendments. And here's a list of all of those. There is one comp plan chapter that is related to these amendments, and that is chapter 7 on economic development. And specifically, there's one policy that applies here, and that's downtown policy number 6. And I'll just read that by clarifying. Oh, wait, do I need to read it? Implement design guidelines and standards, as well as regulations for signs that requires pedestrian scale, pedestrian oriented signage while prohibiting large auto oriented signage. That's the one that I spoke about a little bit earlier about pole signs. And so by clarifying the existing sign code regulations requiring pedestrian scaled and oriented signage and prohibiting some large forms of auto oriented signage, this ordinance supports downtown policy 6. And so we find that these amendments are consistent with chapter 7 of the comp plan and generally with the comp plan policies. So our recommendation is to approve this ordinance without any conditions of approval. And here are the next steps. Any questions? Maybe now's a good time to answer that.
It was just more of a comment, I think,
Okay.
that when he mentioned the flags under the
Right.
political content, you do have flags exempt from any permit or fee requirements, so maybe that was the cross there, is that you do have limitations on the flags. It's got to be a nationally recognized organization. So our flags, they wouldn't fall under the political content that he brought up, then they would be.
They would
separate.
not, and there would be no, there's no time limitations on flags. So they would not be considered temporary signs. Yeah, this stuff's so tricky. So,
And just for clarification, I was just trying to do
no, that's
diametrically
great.
different things.
No, absolutely.
So
yeah.
maybe the Confederate flag's not the right thing, but maybe whatever, pro-life or something, just two ends of the spectrum, sorry.
Yeah.
On it. So I'm glad that they're exempt in there, because I think people should be able to exhibit their flags, whatever their belief
Right.
is or whatever on it, so.
Yeah, actually, this is one of the things that we talked about. I talked with staff and with the attorney about maybe just saying flags and not specifying that they need to be nationally recognized.
Yeah,
or
'cause I don't know
anything
what
like that.
nationally recognized, I mean.
This is old code language. That definitely is something that I could look at a little more closely. I could talk to the city manager or the city attorney again to see if it would be wise to just say flags and then any flag. It's allowed.
It's not a big deal. It just seems to be cleaner.
It might be, yeah.
29 of 38.
Thank you.
Yeah, essentially, it's just not wise for the city to get involved in monitoring content or deciding what content is allowed or.
I don't
Yeah.
know how the city would come up and say that's nationally recognized or not, because you
Right,
park on a
right.
different side of the
Right.
alley. And it's-
Yeah, I will make a note of that, and I think that's probably good. It's good to revisit that.
The rest of this is really good, the way you cleaned it up. So
Oh, good.
can
I
read it and
appreciate that.
Actually understand it. And if I can understand it, that's
Okay.
that's pretty clear.
Thanks.
Tara and or Aaron, do you have any questions or comments on this? At
No.
this point?
Nope, I'm all good. Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, it doesn't look like we have anybody in the public audience, but we might have somebody online here. So any public, I'm sorry, let me open the public hearing just for formality reasons. And nobody magically popped up, so we're gonna close that back down. And let's go ahead and make a motion on this. We'll enter the planning commission meeting again and
I move to approve ordinance 2025-008 as submitted.
we have a motion
I'll second the motion.
and we have a second. Alan, thank you for going and revisiting this and cleaning it up. I do appreciate
Yeah,
that too.
I appreciate everyone's feedback.
Without any further ado, let's go ahead and vote. All those in favor, please raise your right hand or say aye if you're online.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, passes 5-0. Thanks everybody for today. Do we have a meeting for November?
We do,
We do?
Yeah.
Okay, we do.
November, I want to say 19.
19.
A little bit later in the month.
Yeah, and then Elena
Yeah.
had one other thing for you all to ask today.
Oh, that's right. Thanks for remembering
Thank
that.
you. We are issuing an RFP on Monday for an engineer for the water treatment plant upgrades. And I know Ben in the past has helped us evaluate those proposals. And I was wondering if anybody on the planning commission would be interested in assisting. It'll probably be the sometime either November 17th, 18th, or 19th that we would meet, just one meeting to evaluate the proposals, and I just need one volunteer.
Elena Scottstall, yeah, I'd be happy to do that.
Great, thank you, Scott.
I'd be happy for Scott to do it too.
Teamwork.
All right. Elena, on that front, so this is just the preliminary engineering RFP. So do we have like man, it'd be nice if we got this done by date as far as the actual work?
We're wanting to do the work next winter.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a real quick turnaround. We're wanting to get it done next winter, so keep your fingers crossed, everything goes smoothly.
Fantastic. Okay, well, that was a big one. We'll see everybody in November.
Yeah.
Have a great month, everybody.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Thanks, Tara.
everybody.
The days.
Thank you
Thanks,
guys.
Aaron.
To Texas, so that's.
Thanks.